Welcome to the Realtor Who Wines podcast. I'm Rashelle Newmyer, your hostess with the mostest, a student of life, a connector, a passionate wine enthusiast, and your local favorite guide. Join me as we explore the vibrant Pacific Northwest, savor the finest wines, and champion the spirit of entrepreneurship. Each episode, I'll sit down with inspiring guests, supporting business ownership, and uncovering the stories that make this community unique. So grab a glass of wine, settle in, and let's embark on a journey of discovery and connection together. Cheers! Everyone, welcome back to the Realtor Who Wines podcast. I'm Rashelle, and I'm so happy to have you here, as well as my guest today, Alisha. Cheers to you. Thank you for being on. I am excited to hear some of the things that we were actually just having pre-conversation before the podcast even started. And I was like, ooh, we should talk about that. Ooh, I like that. We should have
just had it recording.
The whole time. So first things first, will you go ahead and give an introduction to everybody of who you are and your business and all things?
Yeah, the elevator pitch.
Yes, please.
The thing I'm always like, wait, how do I say this? What do I say?
My name is Alisha.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I nailed that part.
Perfect.
My name is Alisha Carlson. I am a fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle coach for women, potentially more specifically millennial moms.
Yeah.
But really looking at health and wellness through a non-diet lens. My heartbeat is really helping women heal their relationship to food, exercise, and their bodies. Not necessarily even just so that they can reach like a specific target weight or target physique, but because I really think that women are incredibly talented, incredibly powerful, and we have so much to offer the world. But we need good health. We need to be in a good mental and emotional place to do that. And so that's, I think, really where I see myself kind of partnering with the women that I work with.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about your journey, because you've been throughout the health world in multiple different areas, like to the extreme of like bodybuilding and like being in shows and things like that, and then also the opposite end of that scale, right?
Yeah, I say I've gone from couch potato to figure competitor.
Yeah.
So really did kind of go from not really caring about what I ate, trying the little diets on magazines, 6 weeks to your best bikini body, and I would get like 3 or 4 days into it and be like, I'm starving. Where are my abs? And then this doesn't work, and just kind of quit.
Yeah.
And then in 2007, that really was where it kind of changed for me. So that was the year that we got married. My now husband, but he was my fiance then, did some silly little like Biggest Loser challenge at work. And I was like, oh, I'll do it with you. And so we started running. And I always say that was kind of my gateway into the fitness space. And so I ran 5Ks, 10Ks. I did one and only one half marathon before pivoting and going more into the weight training space. Did some figure competitions. Actually just had my 1-year anniversary from my first Spartan race. So I've done kind of a lot of different things, and I'm thankful for all of it. I think running, the thing that was so powerful about that was a space where my limiting beliefs started to kind of break down, because I was like, I'm not a runner. And then I just started running, and I was like, okay, let's try a 5K. I think I can get it done in 24 minutes. Did that, and so it was like, okay, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, I had that same mindset. Well, I was telling you this in like 2012, my mom ran a half marathon, and my mom didn't play sports growing up, and I was like an athlete growing up. I even did college sports. And so when my mom did that, I was not in good health at that time as far as like my weight and things. And I was just like, well, if my mom can run a half marathon, surely I can do it. So I started training with her, and I had that mindset, like I have to run the whole thing or it doesn't count. And really that's not the truth. Like I one time the following year ran with her, and she does run walk. And I was like, well, I want to stay with her and like have this experience with her. So I did the run walking with her, and I was like, this is delightful. My body's not tired. I actually ran faster when I was running. And so it's just so funny. I think like to your point where like, I'm not a runner. I think everyone is at different stages, and there's different fitness levels for everybody. Like the run walking, you're still covering the mileage. Yeah. So like, who cares how fast you do it?
Yeah. And I think for me, I mean, I am pretty competitive. So it was like, okay, I want to see if I can get this time. And I would always set like time goals for myself. And I think that there's something powerful about that, about setting a goal and accomplishing it. However, I've also learned so much about myself in my fitness journey and the years of doing different things that there is also so much value in learning to enjoy the journey, enjoy the process. And it's not always about getting to the finish line, in this case, like literally, but whatever that proverbial finish line is for you, it's not always about getting there the fastest, because if you're anything like me, you probably set a goal, you reach the goal, you don't give yourself time to even celebrate that, and you've already have another goal. So then you kind of get into this perpetual cycle of never feeling like you're accomplishing anything or never getting where you want to go.
Well, and that's why so many people quit, like when they start a new journey or something different, because they feel like they aren't getting any movement. Or like you said, you're like, I've been eating lettuce for 4 days. Where are my abs?
Why do I not have a six-pack yet?
Where's my bikini bod?
Yeah, I just want a hamburger.
But yeah, that happens, right? Or like, what is the point? What is the point? Talk about how you went into the competitive world, and like, what did you learn from that? And like, what drove you to go from the couch all the way to that?
So I did my half marathon. I think it was back in 2010. And I was kind of toying with the idea of doing a full marathon. I was like, okay, like that seems like the natural next progression. I honestly cannot remember what triggered me to actually kind of stop running and move more into strength training. As I'm saying that might not be entirely true, in the sense that looking back, I think a lot of that motivation for losing weight was ultimately driven by my need to feel like I was enough or worthy. And I was the smallest I had ever been, like size-wise, weight-wise, running, but I still was like, I don't like love what I see in the mirror.
Sure.
So I thought if I had muscles and I looked like, the fitness models on the magazines, then I would, be in a better place. And, I learned a lot of great things: discipline, setting a goal and being really focused for that goal for that specific time. And I think that it really did trigger a lot of disordered eating, a lot of body dysmorphia, probably heightened body image issues that were already there. And, so it was that, it's kind of crazy thinking about it now. I'm like, gosh, to even get on a stage, like in a bikini in front of a bunch of people you don't know, like who does that? Why do we do that to ourselves? But, it was fun, but there was also like a lot of unhealthy side effects that came with that.
And then was there anything that made you be like, well, this is too much? I don't want to be competitive. Like, that's not part of my lifestyle. Obviously, I'm not like putting down anybody that's in competitive sports or CrossFit or anything like that. But obviously something for you triggered where you stopped competing. What was that turning point for you where you're like, okay, I don't want to go like this much. I don't want to be working out this hardcore all the time.
I wanted to go pro in the figure world. But it was wreaking havoc on my marriage and my family.
Sure, because
it's a very time-consuming sport, if I can be honest. And I know that, I don't mean to say that to be offensive to anybody that's in the sport and that really loves it. For me, it was very selfish. It was a lot of time dedicated to my workouts, to like meal prepping and having everything weighed exactly so. And it was just not, I was like, okay, I feel like if I continued to pursue a pro card in this, it's going to be at the sacrifice of my family and my marriage. And I decided that was more important for me.
Sure. And then, so what happened in that part of your journey? So once you're like, okay, I'm not going to do the competitiveness. Now what's next for me? What did you do then?
I continued strength training. I continued eating like super clean.
Is that when you became a personal trainer?
No, trying to think back. So I was a hairstylist right out of high school. And then I went to get my degree in exercise science and nutrition in 2011. I competed in 2012. Probably pursued that until 2013. And then I backed away from that. I was just kind of on my own personal fitness journey, finishing my degree. And then when I got out, I started coaching. So it was very like what I would say traditional, here's your meal plan, here's a workout program, like just do it and get results. And I saw my clients failing with that, because if it were that easy, we could literally just Google something and just do it and get the results. But I mean, speaking from a woman's perspective, there's so many other things that we're juggling. It's like, yeah, ideally I would do like 5 to 6 workouts every single day at the exact same time, and I would eat perfectly. But it got really hard for me to see my clients beating themselves up for, I'm doing everything right and I'm not seeing the results. And I got to a place myself in like 2017, 2018, where it just felt like I was constantly fighting with my body of like trying to keep my weight at a specific size. And I remember very distinctly standing in my kitchen, taking before pictures and feeling like a failure. And I'm like, I have a degree in this. I've been on stage. I've lost weight. I've kept it off for 10 years. Like, why am I starting over in some degree?
Sure.
And for me, that was where I felt like the Holy Spirit was like, it's because you've been dieting this whole time and calling it a lifestyle. And that was really what changed the trajectory of how I coached and how I started to look at nutrition and fitness and fat loss and all of those things.
So talk a little bit about what you do now, because you are a coach now. You do group coaching, one-on-one coaching, you have a podcast. Let everybody in a little bit on what you do now to help people.
Yeah. So, I mean, my heart is still the same of like wanting to help women feel confident and comfortable and meet their health goals. And there is like the nutrition coaching aspect of it. There is the fitness coaching aspect of it, but so much of it is about the mindset. It's about like rewiring your thinking about food. It's really taking a look at like your habits and your patterns and like what triggers you to, you know, for me, it was like binging on huge bowls of cereal after I put my kids to bed, because that was the first time all day that I felt like I got to have some me time or some time where I wasn't needed. And so when we really start to look at like what's the upstream behavior, that's the root that's kind of causing all of these habits or this cascade of behaviors that is leading to, you know, you're not feeding yourself, you're not eating all day. So then you wolf down like 2 or 3 plates of dinner, and your body is like just trying to get all of the calories in at night. And then you start all over again. You know, maybe you're just running on caffeine. And so it's just really looking at like what's the root, what's kind of driving the behaviors from more of like a tactical point. And then really just like, we got to change what's going on up here, because
100%,
you know, your subconscious drives like 90 to 95% of your behaviors. If we don't change the stories that are on repeat up here, you're just going to keep creating more of what you have.
Yeah. One of my coaches have said, like, not just to me, but like in general, like either change your goals or change your behavior, but you have to change one. So if you're not going to change your behavior, then you can't attain the goals that you're trying to set. Right. And it's the same thing. Like, you really have to come to terms with, like, I have to make some sort of change or my results will never be different.
And I think there is like a level of sacrifice. And I think that we're kind of in a place right now, at least like in some of the health landscape, and maybe we use health in like air quotes.
Sure.
It sort of is like the health at every size or the anti-diet movement, where, you know, people want a specific goal, but they don't want to have to sacrifice for it. And it's like, yeah, I just don't really think that's how it works. But, you know, how do we do that without burning ourselves out, without completely like beating ourselves up? And I think that's an interesting dance. And it comes down to like, why are you pursuing the goal in the first place? And if you're pursuing it from a place of not feeling like you're enough, not feeling like you're worthy, then no matter what your body looks like, you're taking that with you. And I'm like living proof of that. I maintained like 11% body fat for months after competing. And I still would look at myself in the mirror and be like, oh, I could be a little tighter here, or this could be a little bit better.
Sure.
And, you know, it's like once you kind of work on, I think, healing that relationship that you have to yourself, it makes you so powerful and unstoppable, because now I'm not pursuing that goal because I need to feel like I'm worthy. I need to feel like I'm enough. So it doesn't matter how long it takes me. Like I already am experiencing what I want to feel. I just get to go and have fun pursuing the goal.
Yeah. What kind of advice would you give? I think, like you said, you geared even unintentionally sometimes towards the millennial mom, and being one of those. Sometimes we do have that guilt of like, well, I could go to the gym, or I could get more laundry done, or I could get this done, or I could get that done. Like going to the gym or choosing that workout time feels guilty, like, because I'm choosing that for me. What kind of advice would you give moms like me that's like, I know I need to work out, I know I need it, but I'm choosing to do XYZ to serve my family or my clients or my business instead?
I kind of feel like a jerk because I have never felt guilty about taking that time for myself. And to the point that I was like, oh my gosh, am I a bad mom because I don't feel guilty about this? I just remember like early on when my kids were little, it was like I was already working out, like that was already a part of my life. And I just never thought like, oh, I should stop doing it. Now, when I was working out a ton and taking my kids to the gym and they were hanging out in the daycare, definitely like looking back, there was some guilt there. But I think what I would say is that recently I've gotten to have some cool conversations with my kids, and even my husband wrote me a note, and he just said, you know, I'm so like, thank you for being an example of what it looks like to take care of yourself. Because I see that because of my decision way back then to prioritize health and things like that, and what I was cooking, what I was eating, how I was taking care of myself, like it literally, my husband is healthier because of it. My kids are healthier because of it. And so I think you're going to probably feel guilty either way. I think, you know, you're going to look back on your life maybe and feel guilt that you didn't do something different. Yeah. I think it's okay to feel guilty. I think we want to try to avoid that, but really maybe defining for yourself what it looks like to be a good mom, what it looks like to be a good partner or spouse. For me, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm the only one doing the laundry or the cooking. Right. It's like me being a good mom is me having a relationship and connecting with my kids. Right. It's making sure that they have what they need. But me being a good mom also looks like me setting an example and being a role model. Same, me being a good wife. Like I used to think I have to have the house all clean and I have to have all this stuff done before Rob gets home. And I'm like, at the end of the day, like that's not what I think it is. Like it really is a more relational thing. And I do still take care of stuff at the house. But I also have given my kids chores and responsibilities early on. And to contribute. Yeah. You know, it's kind of evening that load a little bit and delegating. So I think that you probably will feel guilty for a little while. I think it's okay to feel guilty, but I think you have to also zoom out and think, like, what is the example and the role model, the modeling that you want to be for your kids? And unfortunately, I think a lot of what I see with the women that I work with initially is they're modeling by default what was modeled for them by their mom or their grandmas. And those women were not necessarily living the life that they wanted to be living. Well, or it's different. So like my grandma, for example, was a stay-at-home mom. And so her role was different. She wasn't at a job, not that it was easier by any means, but she wasn't at a job like 40 to 50 hours a week and then doing all the household stuff. A lot of women today work full-time and then still do the household stuff full-time. And so that's where I think a lot of us struggle with, when do I choose me time? Because I'm wearing all these hats. I recently, you'll be very excited for me to hear this, but I just signed Rylan up for swimming on purpose during a workout class, and it's at the same gym. So I was like, now I don't feel guilty because she'll be at workout class, because I do feel bad sometimes when I'm like, we're apart all day, and then to be like, okay, now I'm gonna go do this, because I do a lot of showings at night too, so I have to work a lot during the week in the evenings and weekends. So I already am like, she's at school all day, and then
she comes home and I'm like, I gotta go do my showing. So I was like, at least this way she's getting to do something fun, and I for sure I'm gonna get two workouts in a week while she's at swimming. So I was like, well, that's a win, right? Because then she's excited for swimming, and then she doesn't care what I'm doing while she's swimming. It's not like she wants me in there watching the whole time. So it's probably better for her if I'm not, because then I'm not like, Rylan, pay attention, like the whole time. Like,
I have to bite my tongue sometimes when I'm watching, like if I'm observing a practice, I'm just like, oh my God.
It's so hard for me because, like, especially now, well, I coach her a lot too, but when I haven't coached, sometimes some of the coaches don't want to offend moms or parents. And I'm like, if my kid's not being good, coach her. Punish her, take her out, make her run lines. I told her that during volleyball season. I was like, you are so lucky I'm not your coach this year. You would have ran so many lines tonight, because she wasn't listening. And I was like, that's so disrespectful. So anyways, not to derail on that, but same for swimming. Like, if it's better for her if I take a break.
It's probably good for y'all's relationship that you won't be there.
I just step back. I'm not a hover mom.
It's good in multiple arenas. Yeah. And I think that's a great way to go about that. So that's kind of like habit stacking, or sort of integrating it into your life. I think another thing that reminds me of this book that I listened to a couple years ago called I Know How She Does It. And my big takeaway from that was really just defining for yourself what it looks like to have quality time with your family.
Yeah.
I think we all kind of have this idea that if I'm not at home in the evenings and we're not all sitting around the dinner table, then I'm somehow failing. But it's like, if you are you able to do breakfast in the morning pretty consistently? Then what if that's your family time?
Right.
For a lot of us, like, we're with our families Friday night, all Saturday, all Sunday. So when you count the amount of hours in there, you actually have a lot of opportunity to connect. Yeah. And so I think for me, I kind of had to shift a little bit, and it's not necessarily about how much time we're spending together, but quality time.
Yeah.
And even in the car, those 10, 15, 20 minutes, taking to practice, picking up from practice, running an errand, or, picking up from school. It's like, those are all touch points that get to count as quality time. Yeah. And so I think a lot of it is just really deciding for yourself what you want that to look like. And, how can I integrate, things that are going to take care of me, but are also going to be really impactful for your family, setting that example. You can do family workout type things as well, and just getting everybody involved. I think you just kind of have to be flexible and just be open to trying different things until you find something that clicks and works for you.
What kind of advice do you give with like meal prepping, or like how to, like you said, it's not just a diet mentality. It really is like changing your mindset around food and what you're doing. Clearly we're having wine, which I didn't even mention today. We're drinking Stoller Pinot Noir Rosé. Stoller's in Dayton, Oregon, not too far from here. Have you been there before?
I don't think I have, but I feel like I just bought this bottle of wine maybe when I hosted the Women to Women.
Yeah, well, they are in major grocery stores. They are one of the larger wineries in the area, but very delicious, and they have a great tasting room. If anybody's ever in the area, I definitely recommend checking them out. But clearly we're having wine today, so it's not like you're being like, no wine, no this, no that. Like, how do you decide, like, for yourself? And then also, what kind of advice do you give when, like, having certain things like wine or snacks or something that's not healthy, air quotes again, healthy?
I think if you can kind of look at food in a similar way that you might money, right? It's like, if we just didn't pay any attention to our finances and we were just swiping our debit card like all month long, that could cause some problems.
Yeah. That'd be cool if we could do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm working for. Someday I could just swipe that debit card all month long and not even have to think about how much money's in the account. But for most of us, if we did that, we probably wouldn't get results that we want.
Right.
And it's an interesting thing, I think, when we start talking about food and nutrition, and especially tracking. And I don't think that everybody needs to track forever, but I think that if you have like a specific weight loss or fat loss goal or physique goal, doing some sort of tracking, at least for a little while, until you can kind of get the hang of it, is not a bad idea. If anything, just to have some awareness about what you're eating, how much you're eating. If you have a history of eating disorder, that's probably not going to work for you. So you have to kind of know yourself and know what is going to work. But even something as simple as like using your hand as like a measuring tool. So your palm for a protein serving size, a cupped handful is your carb. Unfortunately, the thumb is the fat. I'm always wishing my thumb was like twice as big when I'm eating peanut butter. And then, a fistful of veggies. So you can't even just start kind of by eyeballing it.
Sure.
In terms of nutrition, I try to focus on protein and fiber. So like veggies at most meals. A pretty simple rule of thumb, like a great place to start, is about 1 gram of protein per pound of your target body weight. Whether that's losing or maintaining, that's a pretty good place to kind of start. And so I'm huge on that. It's like, we don't need to get crazy with all the nuanced stuff, but let's just focus on increasing our protein and our veggie intake. And then we can kind of dial in nutrition as needed from that. And then, I live by the motto, and I coach my clients on this too. You have to really think about trying to reach your goal in a way that you could see living your life forever. Because what usually happens is people will do really extreme things until they reach the goal, but it was so extreme and there was a lot of deprivation, a lot of restriction. And so then they end up rebounding. If you think about it like a rubber band, the harder you pull the rubber band back, the further it's going to go in the opposite direction. It's the same thing with nutrition and exercise. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of taking it slow, probably slower than you want to go, but really focusing on some key cornerstone habits, and then you can dial in and get a little bit more nuanced as you go.
Are there any apps or anything that you recommend or that you've used in the past for tracking your food or trying to like log what you're eating so you're like aware of what you're doing?
I currently am using, I think it's called the Carbon app. And I like to go in and I just kind of pre-plan my day. That way, especially like with the protein, just to make sure that I'm getting my protein in. Sure. I like to just go in, okay, I know this is what I have. I punch it all in and there you go. But I think there's so many different tracking apps that, again, it's not something you have to do forever, but it might not be a bad idea to just do it for a couple days until you kind of get
just gives you baseline. Yeah, like a foundation or a true understanding, because sometimes we might not realize, oh yeah, gosh, I did have candy 4 times yesterday, because you grabbed like a handful here and there or whatever. But if you're tracking everything, then you're really paying attention to what you're having. Yeah. And it's like your finances. If you are monitoring your finances in any way, shape, or form, this is really similar to that. And I actually find that there are so many similarities in people's behaviors around money and food. Sure. And so it's kind of as like, if we can work on one area, then the other's going to typically also kind of get better as well. So, if there's a lot of overeating, there might be also a lot of overspending. Oh, for sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So you do have a podcast too. Is this the kind of content that's on your podcast? Share a little bit about your podcast and how you help people that way. Yeah, my podcast is called The Strong Her Way. And, I'm having interviews and doing conversations like this with other people, experts in different areas. And then this is the kind of stuff that I talk about all the time. So it's the nutrition, it's the fitness stuff, especially geared towards women. Unfortunately, for a really long time, women were highly underrepresented in research. And so a lot of the research is geared towards their findings in men. Sure. And the more that they're starting to research women and how specific things like fasting and even trainings, depending on the time of the month for you, and kind of changing that up, we're finding that it's not always like whatever your spouse or the man in your life can do, you can also do and get the same results, which in a way is a sigh of relief, because how many women do I know? Do you all know, maybe you were one of them, where you and your husband start the same exact diet, the same exact workout program. He gets shredded in like 3 weeks and you're actually like gaining weight. I remember once in my 20s, my ex-husband, I was doing like P90X. I was like very like strict on my diet. I was doing like Herbalife, P90X, all the things, getting all the sleep, drinking all the water. The only thing he did was give up pizza. And it wasn't even like he was having pizza every day. He just gave up pizza. That's it. And he lost 10 pounds like that. And I was gaining weight and stuff. And I was like, this isn't fair. I was like getting so frustrated because I was working so hard. And he just gave up one food and like lost weight. Like it was no big deal.
Well, and that's the trap. Like that's the trap is like, I'm doing everything. How come I'm not getting results?
Yeah.
Well, maybe you don't actually need to be doing everything or to that extreme degree. So yeah, we talk about that. We talk about mindset stuff.
Yeah. And does an episode come out every week? Like, or where can people find you?
Yep. I am publishing a new episode every Wednesday. It's on all major podcast platforms. I also am on Instagram at Alisha Carlson _ or the Strong Her Way there.
And then for coaching, or if people wanted to meet with you one-on-one, I know you have a group coaching coming up, right, soon?
Yes. So I will be officially launching the first round of that in June. But I am also kind of doing, bringing people into that as kind of an early bird as well. But if you want to learn more about any of my coaching, I would just go to alishacarlson.com and you can fill out the client form and request more information there.
Yeah. Well, and she coaches on everything. It's not just like, here's your workout. A lot of it is mindset, looking at your own lifestyle and like evaluating like what makes sense for you, your body, your goals. So I just want to make sure people know it's not just like, oh, here's your workout, go do this, or here's your meal plan, go do this. It's really more of a tailored one-on-one, what you need, and also where your mind's at too.
Yeah, the mindset piece is huge. So really what's driving the behaviors, again, going back to the subconscious. Inside the group coaching in your portal, we have kind of two tracks. So there's one that's geared more towards perimenopause and then one that's geared more towards working with your monthly cycle. So there are some differences there in training recommendations, just kind of depending on where you're at with that. Fortunately, like a lot of the nutrition stuff, it kind of gets to stay the same. It's interesting, the more experts I talk to in different arenas, it all comes back to the same things.
Sure,
it's your strength training, your sleep, increasing your non-exercise, so walking or just moving around a little bit more, protein, fiber.
Yeah, because even
stress,
like the amount of steps that you're supposed to take a day or get in, it varies on person to person. Like a lot of people are like, get 10,000 steps in, but I know others that are like, oh, if I get 6,000 and I lose a ton of weight.
Yeah, and that's where, you know, I think we want kind of a cookie cutter. If you do this, then you get this. And it's not quite that way. So
unfortunately,
I think it's working more on like those foundational habits. And I think that's where a little bit of like releasing the outcome as well helps, when you're not like, I have to lose X amount by this time. It's like, okay, let's just work on the habits and what we're building long term, and releasing the outcome, and just trust your body that you'll end up where you're supposed to be. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate it. Again, we will tag all of Alisha's info, her podcast, her website on the YouTube video of this podcast and any of the audio. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers to you, and cheers to everybody listening. Have a great day.